first of all, it's unclear whether the society is really getting more violent or if we're getting less tolerant to violence. But certainly we are very concerned by violence and we're concerned by youth violence. Now, what's specific about our society with adolescents is that they spend much more time in between themselves, and that less and less of adults actually help in to socialize them and to get them accustomed to what they're going to face in our own adult society, which is not that peaceful. They can relate less with adults. What we find is that there is an increasing proportion of adolescents who relate less to adults because in their experiential world, what is really important is what their group thinks. And therefore, they're going to be more attuned to their group and less attuned to adults. This has always existed, but the less presence of adults today makes that phenomenon more important and leaves them at the mercy of group dynamics, which in themselves can be quite violent when they're unsupervised. Adults have to do a lot with it because obviously there's a lot of pressure being put on adults, and that pressure is also being put on adolescents to choose, on adolescents to be autonomous, but what is the support that they're getting to make these choices? The new attachment modalities that we are trying to look at is how indeed in adolescents who do not relate to many adults, how then do they transition from attachment figures from one adolescent to another, and how that might influence actually their capacity to build meaningful relationships as young adults and as adults who are entering the professional world. And so the attachment modalities here have to do with the fact that it's the ratio between adult attachment relationships and youth attachment relationships that is changing, and that might have a significant effect on the way the brain develops, on the way the brain is shaped through experience, and on the way the brain is plastic when it then enters adulthood and the expectancies of the professional world. The adolescent brain can develop as a brain that is plastic, that is flexible, but it can also develop as a brain that is rigid and that is not ready for change and that is not ready for adaptation. And the more the adolescent is in an environment that is arousing, that is exciting, violent, threatening, the more this development of the brain is going to be rigid. Every good therapy model out there has in its model the capacity to regulate strong emotions. And so there are certainly therapies out there that are actually very useful. But what we're realizing is that it's critical to involve the child, the parents, also the caretakers, and work on emotion regulation as a group if we want to accompany our adolescents to becoming flexible adults. We need to take care of these youths, and we need to take care of those who care for them so that they really become successful and adaptive. I hope that the work that we're doing actually makes parents just a little bit more aware of how their adolescent organizes their time, on the level of excitation, on the level of threat in his life, and not necessarily going to war with that, but also providing a regular, trustworthy space where they can actually communicate, not only with the parents, but also with significant other adult figures that may also listen to them and that may also guide them to have faith and to have trust in themselves and their development. Adolescence is a period where the social brain is developing, so they're actually working on their mentalization skills. However, when they're aroused or when they're excited, also when we're aroused and excited, we can't mentalize. We can't think about what is in the other person's mind. We attribute things with certainty. We're very inflexible. And so we need to have that in mind and accompany the adolescents through this developmental period so that they actually acquire robust, flexible mentalizing skills. Their minds are occupied with their bodies. Their minds are occupied with what they're feeling and what they feel is true and their emotions. And once we help them regulate those emotions, then their mind liberates to think about what causes emotion in themselves and in others. And that's really what we're trying to do, both in interventions in the field, such as the ambit approach, or intervention in the psychotherapy room with parents and with the adolescents. The adolescent brain is the resource of the future. I am hopeful because it has a potential to be absolutely fantastic, creative, adaptive, and surprise us. What I am not hopeful, or what I am more concerned about, is our capacity to actually do the things that are necessary to accompany them there.